Hello class. Today we have notes 2.3, adding and subtracting fractions. Today we are adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. Okay, so it'll be a little easier than when you have those different denominators. Make sure you write down the title as well as our standards. We have NS 1.2 and AF 1.3. Our rule: to add or subtract fractions with a common denominator, write the sum or the difference of the numerator over the common denominator. So remember, your denominator doesn't change. It stays exactly the same. You're just adding or subtracting the numerators. Let's take a look at teacher example 1. Nice basic ones. Notice, however, we've stepped it up a little bit from 6th grade because now you have your negatives in there. So problem A says, it's an addition problem, but we can see we have one negative and one positive, which tells us we're secretly subtracting. So we're doing negative 9 plus 3, which is the same thing as saying 9 minus 3, which we know is 6 over 11. Now in this case it is going to be negative 6 because the negative has a greater absolute value. Problem B, 15 minus 1 is 14 over 7. And notice that is an improper fraction, so we want to simplify, and that's going to become the whole number 2. Okay, teacher example 2. Now we have whole numbers in here. So we've got what we call mixed numbers, a whole number and a fraction. These ones can be tricky because there's a couple different ways to solve them. First of all, we notice one's negative, one's positive, so we know we're secretly subtracting. What we want to do is we want to see if the number with the greater whole number also has a greater numerator, because if I'm doing 8 minus 5, I also have to do 3 minus 2. In this case, it does have that. So I'm going to write it out and move my whole numbers so they're together, and then my fractions so they're together. So you'll see that here. 8 minus 5 we know is 3, and 3 minus 2 we know is 1. So when we subtract, we have this. And now notice this one, the negatives on both of these are greater. So when we add them together, our answer is going to get more negative, and we just put them together. Okay, so right away from the get-go, you could tell that the negative had the greater absolute value. So you could even just wait and put the negative on at the very, put it on in your answer column right away. So that's how you're working with those there. Let's take a look at student practice 1 and 2. We have 4 problems. You want to find the sum or difference, simplify if possible. Pause your video, press play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, welcome back. First one, nice and easy. 1 plus 2, we're adding those numerators. 1 plus 2 we know is 3. We need to simplify, divide them both by 3, and we get 1/3. Okay, that one was pretty easy. This one here, right away I can tell it's a little tricky because I'm doing 3 minus 18. I want to skip change, and I want to have the 18 in the front. So when I skip change, I have 3 plus negative 18. And I want to write that 18 first, since it has a greater absolute value. I'm going to be doing secretly 18 minus 3, which is going to give me a negative 15. Now when I simplify all of this, I know I'm going to get an answer of negative 3 because they're both divisible by 5. Okay, nice whole number, no fraction. Okay, again here a little tricky. Notice we have one whole number, or one fraction, and one mixed number. When you get to these kinds of problems, I recommend that you turn it into an improper fraction. Okay, the reason is what you're trying to do is nothing minus 3, which would give us a negative, and 5 minus 1, which is going to give us a positive, and we can't do that. We can't switch back and forth. So the safest way to go is to make it improper. Now I see I'm subtracting, and my I can't take 19 away from 5, so I want to skip change. And then I can, sorry about that, I can reorder my numbers so that the negative 19 is first. I'm adding a positive and negative, which means I'm secretly subtracting. Okay, I want to reduce my fraction. Divide them both by 2, and now my fraction is improper. It's bigger on the topper, it must be improper. So I have, I want to go ahead and divide 3 into 7, and I get, it goes in 2 times with 1 left over, negative 2 and 1/3. Okay, this problem here, notice we have our mixed numbers, and I can do 5 plus 2. I can also do 3 plus 1. So if I want to, I can leave it as a mixed number, or I can turn it improper. It doesn't matter. I'll get the same answer. So if I work with just the whole numbers first, 5 minus 2 is 3. Then I do my 3 minus 1 and I get 2. I want to reduce this fraction and I want to include my whole number. I can't forget about that. So this, divide them both by 2, I'll get 1/4. So I have 3 and 1/4. Okay, so you want to take a look there. Okay, last teacher example, evaluating longer expressions. When I'm doing this, I need to be real careful because I've got several numbers. So here I have -4 plus 2 minus 1. Okay, so I can write it out this way. If I want, I can skip change right here, or I can wait, doesn't matter. -4 plus +2, I'm adding a positive negative, which means I'm secretly subtracting, means I have -2. Now I can skip change here. -2 plus -1 is going to give me -3. Okay, so again, -4 plus 2, secretly subtract, get -2, plus -1, -2 plus -1 is -3. Okay, moving on to problem B, we have the whole number of 3 with a fraction of 9/16 minus the whole number of 4 with a fraction of 3/16 plus the whole number of 2 with a fraction of 11/16. Okay, so again, a couple ways I can do this. I can work with just the whole numbers and then work with the fractions separately, or I can turn them into improper fractions. So if you notice here, this time I decided to turn them into improper fractions because when I'm doing 3 minus 4, I'm going to end up with a negative and then plus 2, and I'm going to be out of sorts with my numerators. So it's much easier to do 16 times 3 plus 9, 57, 16 times 4 plus 3, 67, 16 times 2 plus 11, 43. Now, when I subtract my numerators, I notice I'm going to end up with a negative because 67 is greater than 57. So I end up with -10. Now when I add to 43, I've got a negative and a positive. I'm secretly subtracting, and I end up with positive 33 because, of course, my positive has a greater absolute value. Now I need to make it back into a mixed number, and 16 goes into 33 2 times, and we have the whole number 2 and 1/16. Okay, go ahead and try these 3 out on your own. Press play when you're ready to see the answers. Problem number 5. All we're doing here is adding our numerators. 7 plus 3 plus 1 is 11. My fraction is improper. I simplify it and get 1 3/8. Here, 1 minus 7 plus 3. Now it's a little tricky. I know that I need to skip change, so notice I wrote that in here, 1 plus -7 plus 3. What I would do is do 1 plus 3, since they're both positive, get 4. And 4 plus -7, I'm secretly subtracting, and I get -3. Okay, again, a couple different ways you could do this. You could have subtracted these, gotten -6 plus +3, and still gotten -3. Okay, this problem here, again, we have these some mixed numbers, some not. So I recommend you stick with making these fractions improper. 9 times 1 plus 4, 13. 9 times 5 plus 1, 46. And then, of course, this stays the same. 13 plus 46, we're going to add those together first. Then we can subtract 8 and end up with 51. Then I want to turn my answer into a mixed number. And notice these are both divisible by 3, so I need to simplify. And my final answer is 5 2/3. Okay, here's our quiz for today. Find the sum or difference, simplify if possible. Make sure you use this backslash, or forward slash, excuse me, and that is next to the shift key. If you're using a keyboard, if you're using an iPad, it's underneath the 1 on the numbers page. Make sure you simplify all the way. Don't use any spaces if you don't need any. Okay, have a great day.